Why doesn't the hero reveal himself and tell us all your real name? You do have a name.
My name is Gladiator.
How dare you show your back to me? Slave! Will you remove your helmet and tell me your name?
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
And that is our featured Joygasm moment of the week. Of course, that is from Gladiator. And it's really interesting to look at a much younger Joaquin Phoenix. Especially considering the fact that Joker is coming out next month and he is looking a bit older and he's very youthful and healthy in that movie.
Yeah, it happens to us all, Russ. We all age. You know, we all get obsessed with clowns at some point after basking in the arena.
Gladiator, my goodness, that film, did that come out back in 2000? Is that right?
Just about.
I think it was right around that time, 2000, 2001. It was and is a very captivating movie, isn't it?
It is, Russ. And you watch other gladiator-type movies and shows, it just doesn't quite get it. It doesn't quite capture the essence that Gladiator did. Although Russell Crowe doesn't sound much like a Spaniard.
I was going to say.
Nor a Roman. I'm Gladiator.
I know, it's amazing how all the Romans sounded British.
Okay, blokes, follow me here. Y'all grab your spears and arrows.
It's a very captivating performance, which is kind of funny because back in the day when I saw that film, I didn't even think twice. I was so into the story and the visuals and everything else. But then, yeah, after watching it a few times, I'm thinking, wait a minute. They all have British accents. Like, I understand that they were kind of sort of wearing the toga thing, which was also kind of sort of, I suppose, arguably a cousin to the kilt.
Yes.
But yeah, it is kind of funny to see that. That particular scene was one of many in that film where you were just really drawn into the moment. And I think the performances by all of the actors involved were just great. And I think it was an insightful exploration that director Ridley Scott had with the power of the mob. I really liked how he explored that and how his characters were also talking about how the mob is very fickle and how if you can get the mob on your side, that then you can become more powerful than the Emperor of Rome kind of thing. And of course, too, this scene just really is like the first time we see Maximus be able to identify who he is and really just lay it on thick. to Joaquin. I even forgot. Well, what is his character? What is Joaquin Phoenix's name in the movie? Because I always think of his sister saying, "Oh, brother, brother." Commodus?
Commodus is not a moral man.
Yeah.
Then why don't you kill Commodus?
Yeah.
Right. That's his name. Yeah.
Had to dust off the old gladiator memory.
Right. Well, that scene too, it really shows that the good guy was stronger than the bad guy. And the good guy could definitely hold his own, which is encouraging in the movies because oftentimes the bad guy is often the stronger one. Commodus was evil and he was powerful because he killed his father and he automatically inherited the throne to being Caesar. Mm-hmm. But that didn't mean he was more of a man than Maximus was.
It's a classic hero's journey tale where you have someone who's highly respected in a terrific position. All of a sudden he loses everything. He has to find his purpose. And over the course of the journey, he's able to make some new friends and extract vengeance on those who have wronged him, kind of thing. Which is, it's a classic tale. Who doesn't like a story like that?
Yeah, who doesn't like a little revenge?
And I really did. I don't want to go too far into the film, but I do really enjoy watching his particular journey. I liked how he had suffered so much loss, and then instead of him just kind of wandering aimlessly, he goes into this gladiator job of sorts, more like a slave, but still like just having that go on. And of course, with this particular scene, there are subsequent scenes in the film where they continue to have kind of the banter back and forth of they clearly don't think highly of each other.
No.
But I mean, like I said, it is definitely a captivating scene, and man, I think it definitely plays into what I would consider a Joygasm moment.
So, in case anybody hadn't seen the movie, what was taking place, what was transpiring with the crowd cheering as they were? If you didn't understand what they were saying, they were chanting, "Live, live, live, live," because what would happen at the end of these bouts, these gladiators were slaves, but if the crowd loved you, if they liked you, they want to see more of your performance. Kind of like if you were to see your favorite actor. You don't want the actor to die. You want him to keep working. You want to see more Tony Stark. You know what I mean? You don't want Tony Stark to die. But so he had the crowd in the palm of his hand, and Commodus recognizes him as an adversary and wants to kill him. But since the entire arena was chanting for him to live, of course, he gave him a thumbs up as far as that's concerned and so forth. He went on to breathe and walk and live another day.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I love how they explored the idea of public opinion, because that's basically what it was. When you have the pressure of public opinion that has massive sway over policy change or perhaps, maintaining current policies, mindsets. It's a influencer for sure. And you can apply it even to present day, but man, I'm glad that they never made a sequel either. I feel like that's a film that just kind of stands on its own. I think it'd be, problematic if they were to actually make Gladiator Part 2. Because, I mean, how do you follow that? I would imagine the only way they could successfully do that is if they had a completely new storyline that had to do with, obviously, if they want to call it Gladiator, there's a different Gladiator who was not a general of the armies of the North, and once again had a completely different origin story and hero's journey and stuff. But even then, I think it's still going to be a bit of a Herculean effort, Herculean, something like that.
There was a show on the Starz Network called Spartacus, which was kind of a modern take on Spartacus's tale, but they actually follow somewhat of the historical footprint that Spartacus took. So if you can get past all the cursing and the lewdness of the show, fornicating, then there's something to be, a little history to be learned.
You are listening to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360. He's Steve, Xbox Live Stevavitch. And we have an incredible show for you in episode 139
Amazing.
today. September Friday the 13th, 2019. We're going to forego gaming and movie news and instead catch up with each other before we get into the nitty-gritty of our topic of the day, which is the Apple event 2019, which transpired earlier this week. So what is going on with you, Steve?
Russ, I've been fishing.
Have you now?
I've been fishing. And I tell you,
Virtually fishing
Virtually,
or actually
yes.
going out in the humidity and the heat and picking up some fish?
No, kind of a weenie when that came in. It's 110 degrees outside.
I heard you saying
Just can't do it. That and the bugs and stuff. Man, I tell you. So anyhow, no, I've been virtual fishing and
Sea of Thieves?
yes, I'm on level 17 of the hunter.
Oh,
whatever
good
it's
for
called,
you.
yeah.
The commendation?
Accommodations. And I've been apparently getting noticed by everybody I don't want to notice me. And so every time I catch something, I'm literally not attacking anybody. There's nothing to get on my ship. I'm standing on the dock of the bay.
Because they see you as an easy target because you just out there with a fishing pole.
I'm just chilling. There's nothing to get from me. And every time I would catch something exotic, I'm like, yes. I'm like, no, there's a sloop in the distance. What are you doing? I'm like, trying to reel. There was a time when I had caught a bunch of fish and I was on my way to a little seaport, kind of, whatever place. And this guy is following me. And I think I had a couple of things on board, but nothing of crazy value. But I definitely didn't want to start over. I was trying to end the game. And he pursued me and would not let me go. And I had him on the run like I was trying to get some distance and repairing my ship. And then I would get caught by the Megalodon. The Megalodon attacked me, didn't attack him. I survived the Megalodon. And then I kept sailing, got hit by the Kraken.
Wow. You're in a sloop?
I'm in a sloop, and so
Jeez.
the Kraken ate me and killed my boat, but apparently, after I was off the Kraken, my boat kept sailing, and he left me alone, and then didn't hurt him. I respawned back on my boat, repaired it, and kept on sailing.
Wow.
And then the guy was getting close to me at that point. I figure, okay, I'm going to hit a pirate ship. So I hit a pirate ship, or like a skeleton pirate ship.
You hit it?
I hit it, yeah, just to make it.
Like you just run into
I
it?
just kind of tapped him. Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to get his attention so he would maybe attack both of us, and then I would escape with my life and maybe get this guy off my back. No, the pirate ship didn't attack him whatsoever. And so he kept on attacking me, and I'm repairing. I'm just trying. And at this point, I just want to get offload some stuff. And so eventually I die, but I had my rowboat with me, and so I was rowing to land, and then the pirate ship turned on him. And he sunk the skeleton pirate ship, but he took a lot of damage. And I had found a explosive barrel that I had on my boat that was floating in the water, and I took it and I put it on my boat, and I was rowing as fast as I can, like I'm just gonna go suicidal and blow his ship up. And I get to his ship, and I'm about to just shoot the thing, and a wave comes underneath me and then pushes me underneath his boat, which caused the game to think, oh, this would never happen. We got to reset him. And so it finally just reset me.
Oh, no.
You gotta be kidding.
I figured that maybe the wave would cause a vibration, like it would bump up against the hull and then the barrel would explode.
Oh, and then so I finally get my ship. So I restart. I'm like, okay, where am I? Figure out where I am on the map. My stuff was still on shore. I found it. I get it. Somehow I respawn in his kind of location where he was, and he finds me again, and I'm sailing to what was that? The little place where you're supposed to turn stuff in.
Yeah, like the port.
Little port. I leave my ship sailing, I jump off and swim in the water and go turn it in. And I was a port that I wasn't familiar with, and I was looking around to find this chest. I'm like, just leave me alone, dude. Just leave me alone!
So this is the same guy?
I had to be the same. If he wasn't the same guy, it was just my bad luck. So then I hear this little behind me. I'm like, no. And so I'm running and dodging his gunfire. I hide in one of like the vanity shops. And I have my blunderbuss aimed like head level at the door. And somehow he was able to put his pistol through the window and headshots me and kills me in one shot. I'm like, man, I'm done. I'm going to bed. This is terrible.
I appreciate the tenacity, though.
Man.
It's impressive.
Should have got more sleep.
The Sea of Thieves is no place to be trifled with.
But after that, in the following days, I had caught more fish, turned more stuff in.
Good.
So that was awesome. And I finished season 6 of 24.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Not sure how many seasons there are left, but Jackety Jack, man.
If I'm not mistaken, I think there's probably like 8 or 9 seasons.
Well, we're gonna find out, Russ. We're finding out. But he's been put through his paces.
He has. Keeps
My
on ticking.
goodness.
He too is quite tenacious,
Yes, that he is.
like a cockroach.
Yeah. Oh,
Very difficult to kill.
speaking of cockroach, difficult to kill. You told me about the $2 Xbox Game Pass.
Yes.
And so I downloaded Gears 5,
Congratulations.
which took forever. We were supposed to Twitch it together, and the game said it was ready to go, and it wasn't really that ready to go.
Well, okay, full disclosure, I had recommended that you download that the day before, but you were
Right.
unable to do so.
No.
Which was a bummer because I really
not.
wanted you to help me in a particular spot, which I'll get to in a bit.
Yeah. Although now I think I can. I think I can, said the locomotive. We shall see. But there's another game that is for free on the Game Pass that I've been wanting to play. It's been getting like great reviews and horrible reviews, which is Kingdom Come.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I was saying that in the beginning of the year that I
Yep.
wanted to play it, and it's
Yep.
free, so I might pick that. I mean, it's free 99.
Exact-
How could you go wrong?
Well, okay, so first of all, congratulations on getting Game Pass because I really do believe there is a lot of value with that program. Just looking at it where you're like, I mean, in your case, you're going to have, I think, $2 a month for the first 2 months, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah,
then
and then I'm going to stop it.
you're going to stop it.
I
And then afterwards, I think it's like $15 a month, which if you think about it, that's basically the equivalent of like just over 2 games a year, which, you know, the Game Pass library, I believe, has over 100 titles in there.
Speaking of $15 a month, I've been paying $15 a month for the PlayStation Plus or Pass. Or,
Oh, you have?
Yeah, and I only got one thing out of the entire time I've had this system.
I didn't even know you were paying for that.
You asked me to set it up, Russ. You were at the house.
I wonder if I have that.
And you said, oh, yeah, you ought to do it. That way, you know, if you ever want to play with some friends or something. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, I don't think I would play any games with friends that I have for PlayStation or that's on the hard drive. I really wouldn't. Like, oh, just get it anyway. It's only $15. Yeah. I haven't used jack squat.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see what titles are on there because I know there are lots of titles on the PS4, and I have buddies who are more PS4 people.
I downloaded the title Steep, which is that snowboard.
Oh, yeah.
title, but I haven't tried it yet. But the game costs like $25 on Amazon, but I've been paying $15 a month. 15 multiplied by however many months I've been paying. So I paid for that way more than I should have.
What's nice about Game Pass too, like for instance, just from a first party perspective, this year we're getting Gears 5 and is it Forza? Is that what I'm not sure which Forza title is coming off, if it's like the next Motorsport, like Forza 8. Because I don't think
Most likely it's going to be Forza.
I don't think it's Horizon yet.
No,
because
they're going to come out with the regular racing one, and then it'll be another Horizon.
Anyway, great racing title. That right there, you have 2 games. So like the service pays for itself from those 2 titles alone. And then you have all these other titles like Metro Exodus. I know is one off the top of my head, but they're doing a really nice job of adding more and more titles to that. So that'll enable anyone to be able to get on there and play lots of the more recent titles without having to shell out money every single time you want to do so. In fact, your favorite Devil May Cry 5, I believe, is on there, Steve.
I saw that, and I knew you were going to bring that up. Matter of fact, your good old friend Brad sold you that game, and then it was free 99 on Game Pass.
I know. I could not believe it. Well, and I think that's a testament to the program itself, because I kept thinking, oh, there's probably no way that they'll be having certain games that were released this year come out. Maybe they'll just come out with titles from either last year or older, but they're doing pretty well, I gotta say. Yeah. Is there anything else with you, Steve?
No, Russ.
Okay.
That's been about it.
In Sekiro news, I have gotten farther, and my goodness, it is getting more and more intense. But the one of the current walls that I was having to navigate past was the boss fight with my stepfather from the beginning of the game. In a crazy twist and turn of events, I once thought that he was dead, and it turns out he was not dead, and he's actually a pretty evil dude.
Stepfathers can be.
It's crazy. Like, so I had a choice. He offered me do I stick with the Iron Code and do what he's asking me to do, or do I go against him? And I was like, sorry there, paw-in-law. It's not even a paw-in-law. It's just a step-pal.
It's just a step-pal. Sorry, Dad.
I'm not going to do what you told me to do, Dad.
I'm not going to do it this time.
Yeah, I really mean it. So anyway, it was a very intense battle with Owl. That's his name. His nickname is Owl. And so it took probably about at least 30 attempts, somewhere in that vicinity. But I was victorious, and it felt so good to be able to finally get past that and move forward with the story and see what else is going on. And of course, I think they were probably anticipating that it would be super, super hard to get past, because now there's a ton of dialogue I'm having with key characters, and it's moving the plot line forward. And so I'm satisfied. I have made a significant amount of the way through the game. So I'm definitely happy about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else is coming up, because I've been hearing even the future bosses after that are just even harder. So, whew, I tell you, Steve, it's not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that much. But I mean, what a game. That game, I've said it so many times, but it is such a fantastic title. I really do hope they make a sequel. I hope they're planning on doing something.
Shadows can die 3 times too.
I also started playing Gears 5, like we were talking about just a little while ago. And next week, actually, on the next episode of Joygasm, that's going to be our topic of the day. We just wanted to give ourselves some time to be able to play through it, perhaps even beat it, so we can have more of a full-fledged review of what we think of the title itself.
Not one of those, what'd you think, Steve? Well, in the 15 minutes that I was watching you play and not asleep.
Yeah, exactly. But I can say, in terms of my impressions, are that first of all, the graphics are just really well done, which, I mean, I came to expect. It's the Unreal Engine, and they do such a terrific job with the tech there. I mean, just as a tech demo alone, it's just amazing, like graphics fidelity that they're able to pull off in that title. I do have a bit of a conflict with the characters, though. And I was wanting to get your opinion on this a little bit. I know you've barely scratched the surface of it, but you have 2 types of characters. There's the old crew with Marcus Phoenix and Coltrane, Baird, Carmine, all those guys, Dom. And it was just, I felt like they really fit into the world of Sarah with Gears and stuff, because it's over the top. The game itself is designed to be over the top in terms of the visual spectacle, the weapons, with the chainsaw and everything. And then you have these muscle-bound dudes and stuff. And even the kind of saucy attitude, I remember like if you picked up some kind of weapon, he's like, oh, sweet. Or if you were able to reload at the perfect time, where you get the little white notch and you get the upgraded bullets, you hear him go, nice. It's again, totally over the top testosterone, but I mean, it's a part of the world. That's what I come to expect from the title. But now there's this next generation of characters that they're introducing, and they of course introduced them in Gears 4. And I am torn with them, because on the one hand, it's cool to see new characters. It's cool to see these new storylines and that sort of thing. But I kind of miss the swagger. I miss kind of the bravado of the older characters, because that was kind of part of the roller coaster ride of Gears. I don't know, like, if you've had enough time to play with that or not, if you have any comments toward that. But.
Well, I went through boot camp.
Oh, good for you.
And I kind of got tired of the dude's attitude. It seemed kind of like a chip, like he's got a chip off his shoulder or something. I don't know. It was kind of...
I think in that capacity, it was probably not the best because it's a tutorial. If you're
I'm hoping not.
Huh?
I'm hoping that was the case. I'm hoping that it's not going to be like that through.
Yeah, no. I think it was just the tutorial thing itself, where like tutorials are just boring as it is. Like, yeah, you want to be informed, but at the same time, you're like, eh.
He's like, oh yeah, I'm born ready.
Yeah.
How can you get ready when you're born ready? I'm like, oh gosh.
Well, okay,
here we go.
and that character, that was one of the new characters. That wasn't one of the old characters. Another thing I've got to mention at this point in time is, and you heard me complaining about this on Twitch. You guys can actually check out how many times I died at this one point if you look at this past week's Stream Fest. But the routing algorithms for your allies are pretty terrible in this game. The game, there's a lot of things that are positive that I can say about the game, but this is one of the very few negatives I can say if I'm giving a critique of the title, where the routing algorithm of the enemies are really well done. Like they can come to you from pretty much any vantage point. It's done so in a seemingly unpredictable manner. There's just more of an organic feel to the whole thing. But there were so many times when it was just myself and the Dell character, and he wasn't shooting at anything. He wasn't intelligently assessing like my direction of fire and then having him flank me or anything like that. And I was literally having to take on about 95% of all the enemies in this space, and I just could not get past it simply because I'm on a higher difficulty setting, and I'm just like, it's just a waste to have him over there. Not to mention sometimes he would like get in the way and he would just like stand in front of me. And so I'm hoping that they are able to have some kind of DLC patch that they can send through. I mean, it's got to be pretty straightforward for them to be able to do that. But I was just surprised as to like how useless the ally character is. Now, it's a different story when you're playing co-op. And of course, Gears is best when you have some buddies playing all the different characters, because then you can actually remove the fog of war and be able to get each other's backs and that sort of thing. And so that's what I'm hoping with you, Steve.
Scratching your back. Scratch mine.
Scratch my burly muscular back.
Hairy back, yeah.
My roided back. I saw some more Death Stranding footage earlier this week as well.
Yeah,
I still have no idea what the game is about. I am so lost when it comes to just really understanding what it is. But it's so weird because there is still that part of me that is intrigued by the game. I feel like they're like, okay, one good thing I can say, and I've maintained this for a long time. Yeah. The UI is actually really good. I love how like you can do that scan that like it kind of has this almost like node holographic type of UI across the terrain or across the landscape, and like different other things too. Like they were demonstrating like some sort of gear up, equip, character equip screen kind of thing. Got some good stuff in there. I gotta say, being from a UI design background, I found myself appreciating quite a bit in there. But having said that, I still don't know what the action is going to be like, Steve. I don't know if we're just going to be like doing a lot of walking around, or if there's going to be a lot of intensity. Honestly, though, I'm starting to feel as though there will probably be a lot of Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain sensibilities, simply because in Metal Gear Solid 5, there was kind of like this huge area that was kind of a creative sandbox that you could choose where you wanted to go, and you could have certain types of little mini missions that you could do and that sort of thing. I really do believe there's going to be some parallel sensibilities there, but
let's hope so.
Time will tell. Another game that I was looking at, Steve, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Have you seen the preview to this? It's you probably haven't, because
I may have.
So it's a return. Again, I love how they are making remakes of certain classic games. Like Resident Evil remake is just awesome. There is a classic Zelda title that it goes back to that top-down style where like you're watching him go through and he's taking on bad guys and he's going into like little dungeons and stuff. They're redoing that, but they're completely revamping the graphics engine like what they did with Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 2 Remake, where they're taking advantage of the Switch's capabilities. And from what I've seen, I mean, it is a visually appealing game. And that is a game that I've always wanted to play from that vantage point. Because I'm currently playing through Breath of the Wild, and that's cool unto itself. As a standalone title, it's a much more mature approach to like how you do an RPG. But I've always really loved the presentation of the classic Zelda where you're top down and it's all cutesy and you're doing your little thing and stuff. I'm going to pick that up when it comes out. I'm not sure if it's coming out. I think it's coming out this year. If not this year, then definitely next year. But my goodness, like it looks really cool. Another little gem to add to the Switch library. Now, I got a notification that my Sega Genesis Mini will be shipping soon, Steve.
Prepare to get epilepsy, Russ.
I'm telling you. Apparently, the library of titles for that is twice the size of what the Super Nintendo Classic Mini offered. So there is a generous amount of titles that are coming with it. IGN actually gave it a 9 out of 10. And they said it was the best Classic Mini system to come out yet. Better than the SNES Classic, better than the NES Classic, better than the PlayStation Classic. They said a lot of TLC went into this. You are even able to play the Mega Drive version of the American Sega Genesis release of games. And it has all the box art in there. Really well done. You can even arrange in your library on the screen. If you instead of looking at like the box art, you could actually flip them so you just have the spines. It's pretty cool. You're going to have to come over and go with me down memory lane a little bit there, Steve. I'm pretty excited about that.
Play a little, actually, I was going to say Final Fight, but Final Fight wasn't for the Genesis. That was a Sega CD. I'll play some Streets of Rage with you, maybe some Golden Axe.
They're both on there. There's actually, I'm excited. It's just great to be able to have just, once again, like it's a little mini-me version of the Genesis, the classic Sega Genesis design.
Play a little Shining Force 2. I wonder if they have Lightning Force 4.
You'd have to look. I don't remember every single game that they have on there. Finally, I've been watching more Final Fantasy VII remake footage. And I cannot get over how good, once again, it's a remake. All these remakes that are coming out, I absolutely love how the art direction just reinvigorates my interest to play a game that obviously in terms of the gameplay mechanics are extremely solid. Obviously, Final Fantasy VII is one of the best RPGs of all time. I never played the original. I watched you play all the way through it. And since I have the game on pre-order, I'm actually looking forward to seeing like all the experiences that you had. Only this time, instead of passively watching, I'll be able to play through it myself.
Not sure what you're gonna like it, but let me ask you.
Yes.
All the footage that you were watching.
I love it when you ask me questions.
When you were watching the footage, was everybody talking over each other like they were during E3?
I don't remember too much of the talking over each other. I know that the characters had lines. I mean, like they'd be going. Well, they showed some cinematics and they showed some of the actual gameplay itself, but I don't recall like characters talking over each other simultaneously.
Well, I mean, like they weren't talking over each other simultaneously, but like when there was a boss fight, like, oh yeah, I'm going over here, and I'm going to slash him this way. Now you use that, and they were like, just shut up and fight. Gosh.
Yeah, I think there are certain comments that get made. That might actually be a result of just how the game trailer was edited because they wanted to try and pump in as much like excitement as possible. I can't, because honestly, like when you think back to when you played the original Final Fantasy VII, do you recall them talking a lot during the fighting?
Well, no. Well, only on certain points of the boss fight where they were talking, but it was dialogue boxes.
Yeah.
And so the action would cut from you looking at it from a side perspective, and you would be looking at it from that top down perspective, and you would see the little window of the character who's talking and the sound with the text and whatever. Actually, it didn't make that sound. It made more like, I don't know.
Yeah, anyway. I know the sound you're talking about. I imagine that they'll probably maintain the same type of pacing when it comes to the dialogue. I do think it's going to be interesting to look at how much of a distraction it is, because to your point, obviously it was more just like the text bubbles, not necessarily the voice acting going on. Find your seat at the Steve Jobs Theater. It's time for the topic of the day. Our topic of the day is the Apple event 2019, which transpired earlier this week. And if you are a Joygasm Patreon supporter, you can actually listen to us watch it live in a pre-recorded fashion, of course. Just go to patreon.com/Joygasm and you can check out. It's about 2 hours long. And so there's some pretty fun banter to be had at different parts of the show that we just couldn't help ourselves. Could we, Steve?
We couldn't. At least I couldn't.
I think the first things first. I think I feel compelled to say that I miss me some Johnny Ive.
Yeah. There was definitely some personality missing.
There was, and I think that Johnny's voice,
Johnny.
It's amazing how oftentimes it can be misconstrued or just the value is not placed when it comes to brand affinity.
Oftentimes. With brand affinity.
And that's a great example of it, where he narrated several product launch videos over the course of at least the last 7 years.
The iPhone is made with the nectar of diamonds. Like, wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's amazing. That really, truly is beyond incredible.
But his voice was absent from this particular show, and I missed it. Like there was, the voice of Apple, so to speak, was missing from this conference, and it didn't, as a result, seem as sexy to me.
Well, I don't think he was there with the last one either.
I don't think he was perhaps physically present.
Well, I
but
don't think he said any.
No, I think he did. I think he was. I remember his voice being part of the recording on there, but I remember not seeing him there at all. So I think if I remember correctly, anyway, I think this year was the first time where there was no Johnny Ive representation at all.
You know who wasn't there also? Who was the dude? He looks like the total Marin County kind of guy. He's got a full head of friggin' hair.
I know who you're talking about.
The
Yeah,
tall, thin, athletic kind of dude.
He was absent as well. Yeah. I wonder if he was at the previous conference, because if you recall, Apple now has 2 different conferences during the year because they have so many products that they're having to push out, as well as updates to their operating system. I'll bet you he was probably at the one that took place in March. Maybe. Or was it March or April, something like that?
Yeah. I mean, the last time I saw him at the Apple event was when the iPhone 10 came out.
The emoji thing?
Well, it was the emoji thing, and then he went to unlock it with his face, and it didn't work.
I remember,
reset the phone, and so he goes, "Oh, well, back to formula, I guess." Anyway,
he's a nice guy.
Yeah, he is.
I really like listening to him. He has a very laid back personality, and he's just very easy to follow. And yeah, he looks like a sharp guy.
You'd probably feel good if he fired you. He'd just probably fire you.
Yeah.
The most optimistic
If
way.
I had to get fired, I would rather it be from someone like him. Where well, I know I'm supposed to feel really awful right now, but somehow I feel at peace about getting fired.
I feel better than I did when I walked in about myself.
Now, they started this whole thing with Apple Arcade. You can tell that Apple is trying to court a lot of the various big name developers and publishers in the video game world. This year, they had Konami, Capcom, Annapurna all three of which are very well respected in the gaming industry. My biggest beef is the iPhone itself from a controlling standpoint. Really, it's not user-friendly at all because there really aren't any tactile buttons.
Right.
There's nothing for you to press. And so you're left to virtual controls on the screen, which in my play experience is not an optimal one.
Right. Well, it's not. I mean, I've played not all the game. I mean, I haven't played like Grand Theft Auto or Need for Speed or anything on iPhone. I play very simple games, but even when I was playing games where you had to tap certain parts of the phone that were buttons on the screen, in a sense, virtual buttons, it just didn't have the same effect and it wasn't the same experience. And it was more fun to play games like Clash Royale or Clash of Clans or something where you just tap the phone,
Sure.
different things, and you could guide characters to where you even wanted them to go, and they would kind of act on their own.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up, Russ?
Do you know if there is some kind of controller that can be somehow plugged? Well, I don't know if there's a cable or there's like I don't know, some kind of peripheral that can plug into your iPhone that's wireless and allows you to actually use, like if I wanted to use an Xbox controller, or if they have like some kind of third party or first party controller that just has more of the D-pad, the analog sticks, the buttons. Because my thing is, if there is, I think that's the missing link. And I'm assuming that they don't have it. If they don't have it, I would totally play, I think, more games on my iPhone simply because the hardware performance is just getting better and better all the time. And there are lots of games that I think would be a lot of fun to play, especially if I'm on the road.
I think there was something that Target offered back in the day. I don't know if they still offer it now, and I wasn't paying attention too much because I wasn't about to get it. I got a controller and I play Clash of Clans with it. I don't think it's still available now. It was kind of a seasonal thing. Like, is this gonna be a hit or is it not? And there was a universal clamp on it and a plug-in, like you could switch out. But not really many people bought it or was talking about it. So I mean, mobile gaming is something that you do while you're waiting for something else. Like if you're waiting in line, or you're waiting to be called to the doctor, or you're just doing your bathroom business.
Although, so I'm glad you brought that up because...
What, bathroom business? Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Break time.
I'm glad that you brought that up because there is a significant population that are casual gamers. Like they're not into the hardcore console experience or the hardcore PC gaming experience like we are. They just want to be able to bust out their phone and be able to play different types of games, and they're totally happy to do so. And the sales numbers are nothing to sneeze at. I mean, really, it's impressive to see just how much money is being made through casual games. So there's certainly a market for that. I think my thing is like, I don't want the mobile gaming market to limit itself unnecessarily due to the fact that you just can't play certain games as well because of the virtual controls on the screen itself. If they had something like, I mean, the PC is a great example of how there are certain titles where I prefer to have a controller. Like, to give you an example, I recently purchased the Batman Arkham Knight game for a PC because I wanted to be able to play it on Windows and see like how much better the graphics fidelity was and the higher frame rate and all that kind of stuff. And the nice thing is that I can actually take one of my Xbox One controllers and use it on my computer downstairs. That's terrific because now I'm still in that kind of video game experience and I'm playing a game that I would prefer to have a controller in my hands as opposed to having to, use the keyboard and mouse. And that it just feels kind of odd. Having said that, of course, if I'm playing a first person shooter game, obviously, keyboard and mouse are king. You just, the twitch and everything else of being able to quickly move and stuff. I mean, it's really, really good. So I feel like that's what the mobile market needs to do as well, is to embrace that. I don't know how that would work though, because in Microsoft's case, obviously they have cornered the market in terms of the Windows machines. That's their operating system. So they can easily bring in their Xbox ecosystem into that and make the compatibility just native to everything. And it works out really well. Apple doesn't have that. I'm not sure how they would go about doing that, unless, like I said, if they had, a third party company, or even themselves, if they were to put some money into it. I think even Google is a good example where, they're pushing the Google Stadia, and one of the just very few peripheral, like hardware peripherals that they have made is the controller, because everything else is pretty much handled through their servers. What's the use, Steve?
Well, it's not just Apple that doesn't have it. I mean, these phones don't have any buttons whatsoever. Now, no Google phone's going to have it. Mobile devices, like I said earlier, you're going to have very basic controllable type of games. And if you're spending already $600 on your phone, you're probably not going to spend another 60 to 80 to 120 on a controller that's universally made, because Apple's not going to make a controller, nor is Google. Man, maybe Google might, but I kind of doubt it, because it's got to fit with every single manufacturer of a Google phone. Google doesn't make all their phones. I mean, there's a ton. The majority of phones on the market are Google phones, but they're made by Sony and HTC and Huawei, or whatever you call it, LG. I mean, there's a ton. And so they all are going to be kind of proprietary towards their specific manufacturer software, as well as the Android software, and it just might be a little bit too complex. I just don't see them doing it.
Like with the Google example, for instance, because they are getting into the gaming sphere, I could totally see them meeting with these different manufacturers and say, hey, we have this new video game platform called Google Stadia. We'd like to be able to leverage it on the phones that you guys are using for the operating system and everything else. Can you guys, in your future designs of your phones, can you have some kind of universal input that we can plug, this thing that reads to the Google Stadia controller? Because then that would fix exactly what I'm talking about for them. Because Google already has their ecosystem set up. They could perhaps even like partner with all these different manufacturers, so that way you can have the library that Google Stadia is currently building. Maybe some of those titles are mobile phone friendly, and then you can play and just, I don't know. There's just, once again, creating that native ecosystem is key. And I'm not sure how Apple would go about that, because they really don't have that at this point in time. Anyway, the platform Apple Arcade is definitely a big step for Apple in terms of getting more involved with the video game community. And apparently the service is supposed to launch on September 19th, which is just, was that next week? I think it's pretty close. It's going to be $4.99 a month, $4.99 a month. I personally am not going to sign up for it yet, because I just, like I said, I feel too limited, and I don't really play all that many mobile game titles, just to be perfectly honest. But I'm certainly open to seeing like what happens, and if there are some must-have titles or whatever. It's also worth noting that, once again, we're seeing an example of a large corporation moving to a subscription service. And I have mixed thoughts about this. I think that there are certain instances that it works out really well. But I also think, too, that it's almost like death by 1,000 cuts in a way for the consumer, because when all is said and done, it's like you're paying a subscription service for Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and Apple and Google and Xbox
Disney.
And Nintendo, and Disney's going to launch their Disney Plus. You think of how much all that stuff adds up, and it's like, man, like I don't know if I want to be spending that kind of money on a monthly basis, especially if I don't own any of it. It's literally a rental subscription program.
Exactly. Well, if you want to stream, Russ, then you have to. Otherwise, if you want to go old school like me, get the DVD or the Blu-ray.
That is a little too old school. That's just.
But I only pay one service.
Yeah, but that's like 1990s kind of service. Like, you need to get with the times, Steve.
No, the times need to step it up, because all these other. All the blockbuster movies are not even available on Netflix. Netflix has them, and then they don't have them, and then they have them again, and they don't have them. So it's not like you can't plan a night to watch a certain movie, because if you're not keeping up with the licensing dates that Netflix has them, then you're SOL, Russ.
I do think that they're getting better with that. I think that was a problem in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, but I do think
not.
I think that as a general rule, and maybe it's limited to just Netflix, but I think that that's why you have a lot of these platforms that are creating their own original programming, so that way they don't have to worry about licensing rights. And I also think too, in terms of acquisitions, like Disney, for instance, they own all the content that they're going to have on Disney Plus. So it's not like they have 6 months of rights to be able to show something before they take it away.
Right. But if you get the disc, you can only watch so much. You can only watch so much.
I don't know. I can watch quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, right. Anyhow, well, actually, yeah, you can. You can play a whole lot too. But if you wanted to watch anything like Avengers or Star Wars, dare I say, or you want to watch like the X-Men cartoon, which they'll probably get that too. You can get whatever you want on disc through Netflix, and it'll be like multiple episodes. Or if you want to get the movie, you get the movie. But you don't have to get Netflix and Disney Plus and pay for both on a monthly basis. You just pay for one service, and that's it. That's smart.
Apple TV Plus was another platform that they were heavily pushing. And again, obviously, this is a direct response to the Disney Plus and Google Plus.
And PlayStation Plus.
Plus. I think the letter on the keyboard for this year is the plus symbol. It's getting a lot of love these days.
Right.
So that particular platform is going to launch on November 1st.
Why don't they just call it minus?
Probably has negative connotations with that, Steve. You don't want to subtract anything. You're adding to it.
Watch Apple Division this month. New show's coming out.
I will say multiplication might work out for you. Why not? Why add when you can multiply?
Apple X.
I kind of like it.
Apple Pi squared.
Oh. Now, they did show a couple of original programs for the Apple TV Plus. One that's worthy of note was S-E-E with Jason Momoa.
I don't know.
I like myself some Jason Momoa. He's a brotacular bro.
Yeah, I might have to. Yeah, I don't know.
It's an interesting idea behind it. However, I would say that the platform as it is in terms of like what they're going to be showing on there, it didn't really capture my interest. I wasn't excited.
Right.
Disney Plus, on the other hand, when I was watching their presentation, I was like, dude, this is, I'm ready. Sign me up. I'm good to go.
What was really exciting was the sound that they had.
Oh, yes.
I was liking that.
I noticed.
Give me goose pimples.
Do you think you're going to be subscribing to the Apple TV Plus platform, Steve?
I might, but only because I most likely have to get my Canadian fiance a new phone because her phone's not going to work over here.
What does that have to do with the Apple TV Plus?
Because you get like a year free when you get a new phone.
I see where you're going with that. Very
Knowing
nice.
what I'm stepping in.
Then I could come over and watch C.
Yeah, you could.
I could see C with you.
You see?
I see.
See.
They had an iPad update, which I always like iPad, but there really wasn't any kind of new innovative features to set it apart.
No, it's nothing groundbreaking.
It's kind of a standard, here's the latest bionic chip or whatever, A13.
Bionic neural fusion.
Machine learning.
A numbered something rather.
So there's really nothing to, I don't really have any comments about the iPad segment. Did you have anything?
The pricing is right because the architecture and the hardware and everything is getting better with the iPad. And so if you have an older iPad that you've liked and you want to upgrade, well, it's reasonably priced now. You could either trade it in at an Apple store if you still can, if they're going to accept it, or you can donate for a good cause, recycle it, whatever you want to do. But the later, greater iPad isn't like that expensive that it would break the bank to buy one.
I do think that the update to the iPad OS, I know they spent some time on that where they were specifically talking about leveraging the screen size of the iPad, and there's definitely some cool stuff with that. So yeah, I mean, I do applaud Apple for that because there was some pretty intuitive updates to that. Very nice. Very nice.
But that wasn't anything new. That came out last year. Just to be
I need to get myself a new iPad.
Russ.
I was saying that the last iPad I owned was the iPad 2 back in 2011. It's high time. Perhaps next year I will invest in yet another iPad because I must say, as a leisurely device, it is really nice to be able to surf the net, respond to email.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to not have some sort of bulky desktop or even a big laptop. It's just great to have an iPad and you're just kind of doing your thing. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, there you go. I bought an Air 2, but then I gave it to my fiance for Christmas.
I hate you.
That was before I left California. That was actually when we spent our first New Year's together.
So the Apple Watch.
Yes.
I have the Series 4 Apple Watch, and I would say the one thing about their presentation for the Apple Watch was the Compass app. I did think that was a really nice addition to the overall operating system, and quite frankly, I'm surprised. It's funny because I didn't really think about it until I was watching it, but I was kind of surprised that like it didn't always have that. It just seems like kind of a no-brainer, but I'm certainly happy that they're doing it now.
Well, that's because it's on your phone.
I know, but there are like so many different little apps that like you're thinking, okay, you know, they're all about being active and going places and doing things. And like having a compass with the Series 1 just seems like a no-brainer, but I guess, you know, they had other things they were trying to finish up first.
But you gotta, everywhere you're gonna be with your watch, you're gonna be with your phone. And so it's a bit redundant, if you're gonna ask my opinion, which you did not, that if you go, oh, we're heading north because the sun's setting over here, that means we're probably looking west. What's your watch say? I don't know. I could look at my phone, but it's in my pocket. It's too much of a stretch.
Well, sometimes you may not have your phone.
Oh, you gotta have your phone.
I will say there are times when I don't have my phone on my person, but I do have my watch on. And so it is nice to be able to do that. Plus, what happens if your phone dies? You know, like it's nice to have a backup. I personally liked it. I thought it was really cool.
Great, Russ.
And plus the other thing too is like, I don't want to have to pull my phone out every single time I'm doing something. Like if I'm hiking, for instance, it's nice. It's just nice to be able to like hold my wrist up and take a look and just get an instant response and update as to what's going on.
What I liked about the Apple Watch was that they announced you can now pick your own watch strap. You don't have to choose like a plasticky, pinky, whitey, blacky.
Oh, I believe
whatever,
it's called rose gold, Steve. Rose gold.
Something that it comes in the box. And like, I'm going to have to buy another band anyway, you know, whatever. Or if you bought like Apple bands, they would be like 3 in a box. And like, I only want that one. I don't want to buy 3. Now you can just buy the one you want and be done with it. Freaking finally.
As a side note, the guy who was presenting the Apple Watch, that dude was licking his lips an awful lot. Like it was to the point where it was distracting me from like understanding what all the new features were and stuff. Did you notice that? Like the guy had like a crazy amount of like, it looked like lip balm or something on there, but like
maybe it was tasty.
The spotlight was like creating some pretty intense specular highlights on his lips, and he kept licking them, and I'm just like, I wish he'd stop doing that.
Maybe he had some maple syrup with his pancakes and
maybe so.
Couldn't stop licking it off.
The iPhone 11. Okay, so it had the night mode camera, which I thought was pretty slick in terms of if you take a dark photo, it's able to actually
and that looked good.
Tap into more of a HDR style approach where the software is taking a overexposed shot, an underexposed shot, and then one in between, and they're able to kind of balance stuff out so that way you don't have people lost in the shadows creating silhouettes and stuff. That was pretty slick.
That was actually what I would call night and day difference.
Oh, I see what you did there. They also have video 4K resolution at 60 frames per second. They had what was called Quick Take, which, if you're in photo mode, you can hold the photo button down instead of swapping between video and photo, which is great because when you have time-sensitive opportunities that you want to capture, I really like that as well. But other than that, there really wasn't anything crazy new or innovative.
Battery was better.
But I expect that.
Yeah, I know, Russ.
It's one of the things about I expect the performance to be better. I expect the hard drive to get larger. I expect the battery life to be longer. You know, there's just these things where it's like, yeah, those are incremental updates to the overall phone, but I want to see things that just make me get up off my chair and say, by George, Steve.
You're starting
by Odin's raven, Steve. By Zeus's beard. I am going to I feel compelled to buy myself that iPhone.
by Poseidon's trident.
Yes.
Russ, you're starting to sound like me. 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
I've been saying it. These conferences are getting more and more.
They're just safe. They're safe.
Well, they're safe, but they're kind of mundane. It's hard to get excited when they just give you better stuff of what you already have, but nothing new. New is exciting. Getting the same but upgraded is fine. It's not bad, but it's not exciting. It's not hoop holler and punch you in the face. Yeah, just see that? You know, it's not going to be like that.
Yeah, I have a feeling that, Mike Cook, he comes from a operations background.
You just say Mike Cook.
I'm sorry, Tim Cook.
Nathan Cook.
Timothy.
Timmy. Tim the tool man. Timmy.
He comes from an operations background, and you can tell that he's running the company as like a chief operations officer, in terms of the mindset
Of profit.
And just, in terms of the infrastructure of how the products are run and everything else, I mean, it's very smoothly run, but I think that there is an apparent lack of ingenuity that's going on. I do think that there is a challenge, having said that, where, the product itself is so well designed, so well thought out. There are a lot of different features. And I try to be sensitive to the notion that I want to I want to be fair in terms of my assessment of this, where I know that as a consumer, I've been totally spoiled by what the phone, particularly the iPhone, has done just in my day-to-day life. And I think there's a lot of great things to be said for all the different features. And I think I've almost gotten used to just the like how often there had been these like monumental changes or updates or new features and approaches to things. And I think it's very difficult for a company like Apple to be able to maintain that momentum, simply because it's like, well, what else can you put in there? And I know that you actually said some things last night when we were going over the Apple event itself. And those are some big asks, but I do think that they are possible. Do you want to go over the ones that you're talking about?
It's the same stuff I've been asking for.
Well,
for years.
Tell our listeners, Steve.
So I want to be in the future. I want there to be a small little projector that would just project about an inch off, or maybe a couple inches off the phone when you got a notification, little thing that popped up. So it's actually, it's sticking up off the phone, little hologram, little projector saying, oh, hey, call Sally. Reminder. Oh, by the way, Freddie's calling. Here you go. It's popping up off the phone. And while your phone's sitting on your desk while you're working or while you're at school, it's going to have a little trickle charge because it has little slits in there that are absorbing light, like your little pocket calculator. Technology's been there since the 80s. Let's put it in the phone.
I do think that solar power would be more realistic in terms of the near term, with holographic technology more longer term in terms of when it'll come out. But I mean, the solar thing would be a technological marvel for the phone if they were able to do it where you would get a significant charge off of those things. Because obviously, like, I think I said this last night, having a Texas Instruments calculator getting charged by solar energy is a little bit different than having an iPhone, simply because of, there's just a lot more to the iPhone than there is a calculator. But if they're able to do that, if they can somehow put that into the phone, that would be a compelling reason for me to want to upgrade.
Well, here's the thing too. If you're going to charge your phone, we're all into quick charging now. We want the full phone, the full battery to be charged within like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But you're anchored to the charging pad, or you're anchored to the charge cord or whatever. And you're waiting for your phone to get charged up. but you wouldn't be nearly anchored for as long or have to rely on it if your phone was always charging for hours during your day while you're at your desk or in an interview or doing homework or doing whatever, because the phone's still charging.
Yeah.
So if it's charging slow, but you leave it there for 3 or 4 hours, you're going to have a full battery consistently.
Right. Now, what are your final thoughts on the conference overall?
Final thoughts. Well, I think as an audience, we're starting to read through a lot of the Apple marketing speak. And even though we still like our Apple products, it's becoming less and less thrilling to run out and get the latest, greatest Apple thingamajiggy right away and pay top dollar for it, because even the older thingamajiggies do everything just fine. By the way...
You want the new thingamajiggy that's better than the old thingamajiggy.
I mean, a lot of these third world countries use a lot of the older Apple devices, the 4s and the 5s. My 5S just got the Apple 12.4.1 upgrade, and they said that was not going to happen. So my 5S is still getting... So my 5S has the latest software on it. And I don't know if they're going to put 13 on there, but... It just goes to show how much service they're still giving the older devices. Real world use, if I would have put iOS 13 on my relatively new iPhone 7, it's going to compete with the 8 and it's going to compete with the 10 when I launch my Netflix, when I launch my Safari, when I launch my Clash of Clans, when I launch my whatever app. It's not going to take seconds longer for it to load. It's going to take milliseconds longer. And so when you think of the price points that these are at, actually, let me just touch on the price points, right? Because I've been saying Apple's way out of touch with their pricing. Their cheaper phone, the XR, that was at $750 starting.
Oh, they're expensive.
But the iPhone 11 now is at $699. So they dropped it $50, but it has better software in it. And you'll notice with their entire lineup, your phone is now not being sold. The XS and the XS Max no longer being sold on the website. You have to go to an authorized retailer if you want something like that.
Interessante.
Something they said though too, that I caught my eye. They said that the screen was better than any other iPhone, from like the Pro they're comparing the Pro to everything else. The Pro's got the same screen as yours.
Yeah.
I even took a picture of it. Bam! I didn't even show you. The same pixel count, same everything, but they said it's the better. They said it's the better screen.
I think that some of that verbiage was rehashed from when they debuted the XS, because I remember them talking like that too, and I think it's just kind of that's probably the new version of what the XS used to be.
That being said, I might still get the 11 for the old fiancée because she's still operating a cracked 6.
I would say it's time. I would say it's time.
What should we do about that? But I will say, they didn't show the front of the phone very much. They were showing the back of the phone because, man, this is what worries me too. If you think about the 6 or the design of the 6 and the 6S, hardly any change. You think of the 7, hardly any change. You think of the 8, hardly any change. That's 4 generations of phones where you have minimal design difference. Now you're coming out with like the phones that have the full screen and the kind of edge to edge with the notch. We've had the 10, we've had the 10S, and now we have the 11 and 11 Pro. So we have 3 years in a row now where the face of the phone looks exactly the same, which most likely next year it's going to look the same again. We're probably going for design differences instead of 2 years now from like the 4 to 4S, and then the 5, there was a design difference. The 5, the 5S, the 6, there was a difference. We're probably going to 4-year generation jumps now between designs, which is kind of unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. My final thoughts are, I think that the show itself has become rather safe. If I compare the shows over the last several years to back when Steve Jobs was presenting, back in the day, I mean, think about like one year he introduced the iPod, Then another year he introduced the iPhone. Another year he introduced the iPad. Another year he introduced the brand new MacBook Pro. There were these huge leaps in terms of innovation and ingenuity when it comes to these peripherals. And they have done that here and there, like with their what do they call it? The Apple Pod or whatever. It's it's their competition to the Alexa peripheral HomePod. So they do have certain things that they are still coming out with, and so that it's definitely worth talking about. But I do miss the excitement. I miss kind of the anticipated exclusivity that the show used to just really evoke. And nowadays it's just kind of, it's safe. Tim Cook coming out. He's nice and he's giving us an update as to like what's going on. But I want there to be more. And I think it's kind of a 1-2 punch of that, plus the fact that Apple has always been last to market when it comes to any kind of feature or device. And it speaks highly to just when they finally do release something. It's really funny because they act like it's brand new, but it's been out for quite some time. But they tend to do it the best. They have the best quality when it comes to a lot of these different types of functions and features and that sort of thing. So overall, the show was fine. I just felt like it was lukewarm. I felt myself kind of getting bored when I was watching it. And
there's no gotta have it sense.
Yeah. There's absolutely no rush onto social media and say, check this out. Have you guys seen this? There was none of that whatsoever. Plus, I miss myself some Johnny Ive. I want Johnny Ive back. So anyway, that wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Make sure you tune in next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm and consider becoming a monthly contributor. You'll get exclusive perks and early access to the show. Not to mention, it really helps us continue doing what we love to do. Also, you can follow us on social media and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. Last but not least, search Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We will see you next week.